podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Bit of an Animal, your premier fan-supported South African rugby union podcast. I'm joined this evening by Jean and new face Bryce, and Sibusiso will be joining us shortly. He's just at the Arsenal Supporters Club crying meeting right now, but he'll be back. He'll join us. He'll log in about 20 minutes, and we hope to hear his thoughts on not just North London, but also Gauteng. All right, gentlemen, 3 games to review and 2 games to preview. We'll start with the big game of the week. It was the Stormers in a packed house hosting the Sharks, undefeated Stormers, who then lost their undefeated streak. And Bryce, you're new here, so we'll go with you first. Generally, we go with the team that wins, but we'll make an exception this time, especially since we've heard a lot from Dobson throughout the season saying that the idea wasn't necessarily to go undefeated, but the hope is to actually play 29 games this season, meaning they want to make the final of both the URC and the Champions Cup. So, Bryce, your thoughts on the Stormers losing their first game of the season?
I think if we're being honest, it's been a long time coming. I think since that was it months? I think Munster beyond. Okay, we got the wins, but I mean, it wasn't pretty wins, and I felt we got really bailed out by our bench. I think this time without RJ Smith, and let me just bring up the lineup because I'm sure that our bench didn't. Yeah, our bench was really wasn't up to scratch this time, and I think and you got to give credit to the Sharks. The Sharks put a solid bench in there. I mean, what more can you say?
You went with the 6-2 split again, and unfortunately, RJ Smith is out because he actually got a infection from scraping his knee on the pitch at Cape Town Stadium. Do you think he'll be able to sort out the line-out issues before the return fixture in Durban this week, Bryce?
To be fair, the lineouts have been pretty good this season. I mean, I think this match was like a anomaly. So I wouldn't say Lions are that much of an issue, but if it happens again, then I'm like, how? But I think I wouldn't worry too much about the lineouts. But I think they will sort that out. I think it's more. I think we went for the lineouts when it wasn't working with the captaincy. I don't understand why we went for the lineouts there. We should have probably went more for the scrum or the tap. But I don't think the line was that much of an issue.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of dynamic. If you go for the line-out, you could possibly get a maul going and then maybe milk penalty at least. Tap and go is more direct. So if you're struggling in the scrum and the line-out, you might just go for tap and go directly and just go into the contact section. But if you're dominating in the scrum, you might just try and milk the scrum. Jean, this was the blockbuster game of the week. From a neutral perspective, what were your thoughts?
I think there's two incidents can't be called a pattern, but I think a third will confirm it. The 2 games that the Stormers have lost have had the same thing happen in both games, which is the opposition got to 10 points before the Stormers. And in Harlequins, and the Harlequins game, which is much more of an anomaly, because Harlequins wasn't that good until they played the Stormers, and then everything sort of clicked. Harlequins were leading the Stormers the whole game. The Stormers never felt like they were in contention. With the Sharks got out, they scored an early try. And I think the problem there is the Stormers get in their own head and they try too much. One of the biggest things for me watching the game that stood out is Warwick Galant. In terms of kick return, he is constantly out of place. Willems has to double back. So now your 12, who's supposed to be your prime ball carrier and your biggest backline tackler, right? He's supposed to be the guy stopping Esterhuizen. or challenging Esterhuizen, has to constantly fall back because Warwick Gelant is consistently out of place, and he's got no kick tennis. Whereas Apelele Fassi was on fire. He was constantly in the backfield. He didn't come up until it was really needed, and he was constantly launching deep kicks, knowing Gelant is going to be out of place. So I think the little things is what cost the Stormers, and I think the Stormers will need to work on their mindset to say, listen, if we are down by a try or two, chasing the game is not going to help us. You need to, let's get a penalty. Once we get a penalty, let's get a line out. Once we get a line out, we get a more, and stop thinking, oh, if we get a try, we're within 10 points, right? Just think about let's get a penalty. If we get a penalty, we can kick it. If we kick it, we've got a line out. If we've got a line out, we've got a chance. And that's how you sort of eat up that deficit. I saw some comments saying that maybe Dobson's strategy has been figured out. I don't know if that's the case, but if I squint, I can see that argument. But for me, that's a very thin argument. I just think the Stormers were undone by a Sharks team who came in flying, ready to go, and then the Sharks put the pressure in the right places, and the Stormers couldn't cope.
Yeah, there's a lot of dynamics to this because I mean a lot of things happened. Obviously there's going to be it's the Stormers' first loss in the URC this season. They have lost the game obviously to Harlequins in the Champions Cup group stage. Now some people are sort of freaking out already. I wouldn't. I would sort of keep the powder dry. Is Dobson's the argument of if Dobson's game plan is being caught out? Game plans tend to evolve over seasons, especially in rugby. Football less so. So we'll have to see how that sort of pans out because I mean you got to adjust your game plan to the opponent, to the conditions, and to the playing staff that you have. The point about Warwick Gelant is quite sad. He's still a very good player. When he was at the Bulls, he seemed like a better player. And then when the Stormers actually signed him as a Shark supporter, I was like, ah, goddamn, I would have liked to have had him in the team. I mean, we didn't have Apelele Fassi at the time. I watched Apelele Fassi make his debut in like the effective system of like a Vodacom Cup thing while the Super Rugby was going on. So this was quite some time ago. Then Gelant actually had a good season with the Stormers, won the URC, left for I believe Bordeaux, and only spent a year in France and then came back. And hasn't. I'm not saying he's played bad, but he hasn't sort of touched the same levels as we'd expect of him. And like Sasha and Damien Willemse, that type of thing. Because I thought that Gelant was on the track to be as good as Willemse. Jean, you're a Bull supporter. When you lost Gelant, was that at the time like a sore point for you? Like, oh, we're losing this really talented young player.
I think at the time everyone felt yes, because kicking hadn't become such a big part of rugby. So at the time everyone felt, this is a real loss. And please, I don't mean to be overly critiqueful. Gelant is a wonderful attacking player, but there's certain aspects of his game which undermines that attacking flair. So when we lost him, because kicking hadn't been such a big thing, there was no long kicks, there was no kick tennis to speak of. So because that was going on consistently, everyone felt like, you know what, we lost this guy, and he's a good attacking threat, and that's what you want, because and at that time, if a team kicked deep, the obvious thing was to run it back. So think Stuart Hogg, a la the late 2010s, 2015. He was like the type of guy no one wanted to kick deep on because he would just come roaring back at you. And Gelant was sort of in the same mold. Now, because kicking has become such a strategic way to pull teams and shift the defense and open up a crack to run at, or just to gain territory with a 50-22. It's much different. You need a fullback now who, number one, has got a good head on him. He can stay calm under the pressure, and kick back. And number two, and this is probably where I give credit to Fassi because he was lacking in this aspect of his game. Fassi used to be very bad at making last man tackles. And then it was like he went to the Damian Willemse school of being a fullback, and suddenly he was making extraordinary tackles. I remember seeing him on the team sheet, and I was like, "Oh, it's Fassi at 15. No, if they get past the main line, it's done for." And Fassi stopped everyone, and I had to eat my words. A couple of guys on social media tagged me, and they were like, "Sorry, you were saying?" So I think like if Geland can undergo the same transformation, he'd suddenly be in contention for being one of the best fullbacks. But yeah, I mean, at the time, very sad. Now you're sort of thinking, well, yeah, we miss him, but then again, we've got Vili, who sometimes does cool things.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Bryce, your thoughts going forward with the Stormers now?
Yeah, hopping onto that Warwick line, I think it's always been like I think he can still do magic, but I feel like I don't know, Dobson's giving too much license or something. I don't if I'm anyone this season, because I feel like in season one he was more reserved, man. He would kick long and then the kick back, kick long, kick back. Then he would almost link up with Willemse and Mani. And it's okay, there's a gap there on the wide. So then we take it in. Now it's almost like doesn't matter what's in front of him. He goes in there, throws a pass, I don't know where, if it goes intercept, who cares? It's like, and I feel like that's been one of the downfalls of for Warwick this season. Like even last season I thought he was on the up, and then this season just kind of thrown it away. But going forward, I don't know if we're gonna play better next week. I don't think so.
I also think just something to keep in mind is we're looking at the teams before the break. So since the start of the season, barring the autumn nations, it's been non-stop rugby for them. It's been traveling, it's been up, it's been down. I mean, some of these guys started in the Curry Cup, then went into preseason, then went into URC, who went into the Challenge and the Champions Cup, and now some of these guys are sitting on the. I mean, we're now going into the Six Nations break. For some of these guys, it might be the first time they're getting a break.
Yeah, I feel like that's also explained a lot of such Damon Willemse's form, because it's not just them. I think all the Springboks, including the Sharks and the Bulls, haven't really played up to that. I feel like they should have had a break in December and November. I think it would have been unpopular, but I think they should have had a break there and then come back in February.
Yeah, the current structure of the calendar, especially considering that if you play for the Stormers, or the Sharks, or the Bulls, or the Lions, your season actually goes across years, so it's very similar to football. We're currently in the 25-26 season, but if you play for the Springboks, now you have to mentally swap again. Springboks play across a year, so they judge it over a year. So this relentlessness of rugby, obviously with the player development and the player health union saying that all players, not just Springboks, have to have a set amount of rest per season. So there is rest periods, but it's sort of like broken up. Hopefully we get to a point, and we have discussed this on this podcast and others, that we get to a more unified season where it's sometimes it's not so much physically exhausting for players, but also mentally exhausting.
Yeah.
So you want to switch off, you want to do something else and that type of thing. I find that even with like recreational sports, if you take some time away from a certain sport and you come back, all of a sudden your tennis is a bit more fluid. You don't have as much injuries and stuff like that. You actually play better just because you maybe refocused on something else like hiking or running or that type of thing. So from a Sharks perspective, I was quite happy with the result. Obviously, away from home, getting 5 points, denying the opponent any points. We were very much underdogs and we played up to our strengths. Look, it wasn't. We won by 11 points, but it was by no means an easy game. There were a lot of disruptions as well. Losing Manu Chituka so early, 21 minutes to an ankle roll, that didn't help. Siya Kolisi came on in the 47th minute and left on the 71st minute. He didn't make a huge impact. He didn't get the ball that often. I was happy to see Lorenzo Julius actually come on and play on the wing. That was nice. And obviously, despite the fact that we have Edel van der Merwe, having recruited him from the Lions, and Makasola Mampimpi. Neither of those guys, to the best of my knowledge, neither of them are injured, but JP Peterson is backing the youth, and he gave Jaco Williams rising star in the game, very similar to Chisel Jooste at the Bulls, a guy with like endless amounts of speed. He gave him a start, and then Ethan Lucas, Jao Penke, interestingly enough, was bracketed with friend of the program, PK Sobatle, in possibly starting, and then veteran Jao Penke started. Penke comes in for a lot of criticism because he has up and down games, but had a decent enough game, and very good sort of cover tackle. There's a video of him tackling a Stormers supporter very well on the Shark social media and the URC social media. Jean, your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually have a question for you, and it's I don't want to speak from my perspective because I might be biased, but do you find the Sharks team to be more cohesive since JP Peterson has come in?
I think there's a new manager bounce. We also have to factor in the fact that they only changed the head coach. They didn't change any of the assistants. The assistants got a lot of criticism online because of the poor performance at the beginning of the season. But all the factors into that, not having the Springboks in the immediate part of the season, not having the Springboks for majority of the preseason. Springboks was sort of in and out of the preseason, and then the sort of second line of players were in the preseason, and we kept them actually back from the Currie Cup. And then we played them sort of towards the end of the Currie Cup. But then when the URC season started, the people you would think would deputize who were like for the regular Springboks, all of a sudden they were injured. And I'd like to also point out that Jordan Hendricks, he had a good game. I've been critical of Jaden Hendricks' performances this season, but he had a solid game as well. Excellent cross kick from Jordan Hendricks. So I think the vibe is different. Clearly, look, there are every team has their Netflix style documentary now. So we're seeing like behind the scenes stuff, but we're not seeing everything. So clearly, I was always a big fan of JP Peterson. I watched him make his debut on the wing next to Percy Montgomery and Odwa Ngangani, another Sharks, and now he's the coach. So, and he was obviously a world-class player, but if he's going to be a world-class coach, I'm reserving my judgment. I want to see him sort of flourish as a coach and give him a chance to actually express himself as a coach. He seems reserved at times with the videos we do see, but I don't take much stock into those videos because there's like a camera crew everywhere now, but this camera crew is not at the training sometimes, and then that's when the coaches maybe really cut loose. Back to you, Bryce.
I just want to ask: do you feel there was a difference between the Sharks Currie Cup team and the URC team last season? Because I feel like there was even I think both of them played ugly rugby, to be honest. But I think one of them felt like they could win a game, and the other one felt they could not win a game.
A season ago, when we won the Currie Cup, we played with sort of a mix of a team, and then that injection of the under-20 players in Lorenzo Julies, who played last season under-20. He didn't win the World Cup now. I saw the comms guy on Supersport last week called Lorenzo Julies a youth World Cup winner. I was like, no, he wasn't in the team this year. He was in the team last year. So unfortunately, he did his 2-year stint with the under-20 baby box, but then they didn't win a World Cup. So he came in, and now star player for the Lions. Bato Kakani came in, Jaco Williams made an impact. And then this season, the Sharks and the Stormers / Western Province went full on like youth team, the whole thing in the round of the Currie Cup. Just going like full on. We're not going to worry about making the playoffs and that type of thing. So what was interesting is that the Sharks had not won a game until those youth team players came in from the World Cup, and then we went on to like make the away final against the Lions, and then the Lions obviously fluffed. We didn't win that final, just like this year the Lions actually lost the final. The Lions, all they had to do was kick the ball out, and then they sort of handed us the Currie Cup. And then obviously there was that fantastic video of Lorenzo Julies asking JP Peterson, "Hey, how old were you when you won a Currie Cup?" And then JP Peterson was like, "Oh, I was 23." And then the Lorenzo Julies thought he had one over on the coach, and the coach had to remind him, "I won a World Cup at age 21. So, so like, who's really ahead here? So,
no, I think there's something else. I don't know what JP. Maybe you're right. Maybe there's a new coach bounce.
yeah, but we'll see long term. We see this a lot in football as well. There is a new coach
Yeah.
bounce. There's a new sort of environment. But we'll do the previews later. But I'm cautious. Just like going into this game in Cape Town, I was cautiously optimistic. I was like, look, we can win, but it's going to be tough. But now we've defeated the Stormers. I think the Stormers are going to come back like really focused. It's going to be even tougher in Durban. Last year we defeated the Bulls twice, but we were lucky to do so. We split the fixtures against the Lions. We won one and we lost one, and those also back-to-back games. And then we also split the fixtures with the Stormers. We won one, we lost one, but we really should have lost both because we were somewhat lucky at the. I think you remember in Durban, the Stormers, like there was like just a marginal knock on.
Yes, that knock on at the
Yeah,
breakdown.
yeah. But I think it was just like the pixels moving and that type of thing. All right, guys. The other game we'll focus on the second game we'll look at this evening is the Bulls' victory in Edinburgh, Scotland. Very windy conditions. The Bulls' second game in a row victory in Europe. Jean, you had a weird first half where the Scots were all over you, the Scots and they hired South Africans, and then in the second half you turned into the business Bulls.
Yeah, look, the first half was a bit messy. And if we look at the previous week, that's the same pattern. First half we struggled a bit. Other team gets ahead, and then we go in halftime, not chasing the game, but we're building into the game, we're growing into it. And then second half comes out and we manage to scrounge out a win. Now we can't run on that forever. And I saw some quotes by Ackerman saying they're obviously happy with the 2 wins away, and the fact that it's away from home is so much better. South African teams have notoriously been struggling teams on the tour. So, but he said that the idea is to now start targeting the consistency of the second half performances. But yeah, there were some real changes that made a big impact. Cheswell, Jooste, and Kurtley Arendse again on the wing make a big impact for chasing kicks. And this is something a lot of teams forget. It's no use you've got a good kicker or a good box kicking 9, and there's no one to apply rapid pressure, right? So you need a chaser that's got pace, and that's where Kurtley and Jooste are just streaks ahead. It's the pure pace, because they didn't catch a lot of balls, but so often we would see Willie or Andre put a ball up, and the moment the Edinburgh player catches the ball, they're under pressure from them. So they've either got to ship the ball, kick the ball, or take the tackle. Meanwhile, their team is still retreating. So that makes a huge difference. I do think the game for the Bulls was won by the forwards. And in the first half, the backline seemed to struggle. A lot of the kicks weren't coming off, but we were playing into the wind. And by contrast, it looked like Edinburgh was getting all the luck and all the bounces and everything, but the wind was at their back, so they were kicking with the wind. And I sort of made a bet of myself that come halftime, we'll see if it's real or not, whether it's the wind or it's my imagination. And suddenly, the box kicks were going further. They were much more accurate. Pollard's kicks were going further. So it's a lot of little things that played a factor. And I think for South African fans, we have to recognize that in South Africa we play in world-class stadiums when we play a derby or we play a normal URC match. We're playing we're literally playing at Loftus, which is a 50,000 seater stadium. These teams don't have stadiums. They don't have the land area that we have. So Edinburgh Stadium, I believe this was the Hive, is much smaller. It's not Murrayfield, right? We're not playing at Murrayfield. We're playing at the Hive. And yes, it's a regulation rugby field, but the stands are much smaller. So the wind plays a much bigger role because you don't have a 50-meter or 100-meter high building blocking out the wind, as you would have here at DHL or Ellis Park or wherever. So it's both more interesting and I don't want to say controversial, but more tactical. You have to be much more aware, much more heads up rugby. But yeah, I'm really stoked for the Bulls, and I think we're starting to build late, or not late enough, but early enough in the season that we can maybe rescue our playoff chances. If we don't get a semi-final this year, I won't be totally heartbroken. A lot of people will be. But I think the more time Ackerman has to set in with the team, and especially with the Six Nations break coming in, you'll see the consistency starting to go up. But it's very obvious to me that there's a real belief in that team and there's a real unity, and it's starting to come out.
Bryce, your thoughts on this Friday night fixture?
I think it was almost like a carbon copy of that match against Poe. Like it started off with the Bulls. Like I think the Bulls started off strong, and then for the next 35 minutes, it was just all Edinburgh. But I don't know. I feel like there's a balance issue in the Bulls. I think they're trying to run a lot, but it doesn't always come off. And sometimes I feel they should just play the percentages. I mean, I guess that's Ackerman. I mean, if you're gonna play under Ackerman, that's the way you got to play. But overall, I think the Bulls, even in that Bristol match, I think the Bulls are on an upward trajectory. I think they're always in a position to win. So I don't know, because I was making this complaint about the Plumtree Sharks. I was like, yo, it doesn't matter how hard these guys play, they will not win a match. Whereas for the Bulls, I feel like they're gonna win. They're gonna win more and more and more. Just like I don't know if you remember the under-20s rugby championship year in Kabeja. Ackerman was also there, but we under-20s were just about losing the matches. And then come the Junior World Cup, all of a sudden they're dominating teams. And it was almost the same game plan, but it's just the players almost now play better. So I feel like the Bulls. Yeah. So I feel like the Bulls are going to. Obviously, I don't know if I might be wrong, but I think the Bulls are probably going to get to that point. Not this season, but I think next season we're going to really see Ackerman's Bulls.
John, you said earlier that you wouldn't be disappointed if they didn't make a semi-final. Do you mean like if they didn't make the playoffs or make a semi-final?
I think we've got a chance of making the playoffs. Okay. But once you get to playoffs, now teams are refining. They've played you once or twice. They know sort of they've come up against you and they've measured you. With the Bulls, it might be that they played under when it was under Jake White. If or early in the season when it was a bit more of a mess. So they might think, okay, well, the Bulls are a mess. It's going to be easy, but they could also, just come in and say, listen, don't give these guys an opportunity and smother you out of the game. So it can cut both ways. I think setting a realistic expectation of we'll make a quarter, but not necessarily a semi-final is realistic in terms of the Bulls might get to playoffs in the URC, but they won't make it past 2 rounds of playoffs. And that's not a criticism of the players or the coaches or anything. I just think this season hasn't lent itself to stability. That said, it is Pretoria, it is the land of brandy. So they might just decide, stuff it and prove everyone a point and make it all the way to the final. But yeah, they're up against teams who've been dominating the whole year. And getting to that sort of same emotional high is going to be difficult for the Bulls when they know it's a rebuild season and we're trying to rush things in and we're just sort of, you're surviving by winning the next match and you're winning the next match and you're winning the next match. And I mean, for the Stormers, it's almost the opposite. The Stormers are about, they had such a good run. They're almost in the position to start playing percentages and say, listen, maybe this match we don't have to go all in. Maybe that match we don't have to go all in. If we get a losing bonus point, we're okay. And spare some of your players. Start sparing some of your players for the quarterfinals, the semifinals. So but those are long odds. The one thing that did bother me from the game was the fact that we got no replays. And this bothers me because we got no replays and there were several questionable incidents there.
Sebastian de Klerk,
So
whatever happened there.
Seb de Klerk being stretchered off, we don't see what happened to him. We just get told that it's not a high card. But then also the ref comms was confusing because one moment the TMO is telling the referee he sees foul play, he's reviewing. So everyone's like, okay, cool. We don't get to see this, but apparently there's foul play. And then he comes back, he says, no, there's no foul play. The player was always falling. No foul play, just a penalty. Okay. Weird because we don't get to see any replays. No replays whatsoever. And a couple of those tackles looked horribly high. The kind of wrap around the neck tackles that we don't want to see because your neck is the squishy bit holding up your head. So yeah, that would be my only real criticism of the match was the fact that we didn't get any replays and there were some real moments. The Bulls scored a try and there's absolutely no footage of that ball being grounded. Like I'm the biggest Bulls fan and I'm glad we won, but I would have loved to seen the footage where the TMO went, oh, there's the ball, there's the line, they make contact. Happy days. Instead we get nothing.
So the South African contingent in the Edinburgh team is Piers Skuman, former Bull. Duan van der Merwe, another former Bull, played 2 games for the Bull before he went to France. Boan Venter, former Free State Cheetah. Soon to be, where's he headed? He's going to be a Lion soon. And then on the Bull side of things, shout out to Gomede, he had another game. Jean-Louis Rudolph played the whole game. So did Andre Pollard. Curtly Arnoldson played the whole game. Jason Jooster got hit in the head, and we saw his gum guard flash as he sort of opened his mouth. Valila Roo played the whole game. Marco Verstappen came off the bench and scored, played in the hooker position. Veteran Nizam Kar, I thought his race had been run. Nizam Kar, interestingly enough, hosted a rugby sort of an open session rugby clinic the other day in the Athlone area on Johnson Road at the Ahmadiyya's rugby field in Rylands. I wasn't able to attend, but that was kind of cool. I think that was like 4 weeks ago. So cool. Thanks. We appreciate him like sort of interacting with the community, even though he's all the way out in Pretoria. Nizamka, obviously from Cape Town. Um, quick note back to the Stormers game. Interesting reaction from the crowd when Siya Kolisi came on wearing a Sharks jersey. You'd have swore he was already wearing a Stormers jersey. Bryce, your thoughts?
I don't know, man. I think he's just a celebrity. I mean, it doesn't matter if he comes on against the Lions, people will cheer for him. So I wouldn't make a much fuss about it until Sia starts playing for the Stormers, and I think the crowd will cheer less. Ironically, which is how it goes with these box.
Yeah, you guys are very critical of your players going forward. All right, guys. Sibu Sisa was supposed to join, but as I predicted in last night's podcast, I'm sure he found some excuse not to join after Arsenal lost. And then the Lions drew. The Lions played away to Ospreys, who are in Wales, who are in a weird situation as they just found out that they won't exist next season. So how is that going to affect the many former Free State Cheetahs players at the Ospreys, including Dan Kasende? We'll have to see, but good result from the Lions. Arthur Krikani played the whole game again. Unfortunately, Renzo Du Plessis, Renzo Du Plessis went off for a bit and then came back on. No JC Pretorius back for the Lions just yet, but I'd say considering the Lions played the best possible team they had, they went into the lead at first and then Ospreys sort of pulled away. Lions had the lead for a short period of time in the second half again after fighting back after being like 14 points down. They made a full 18-point swing and went back into the lead. But then the last 25 minutes was all stalemate. Obviously, I had to watch the replay of this game because it was simultaneously to the Bulls game, and I was really focusing on the Bulls game. I did say I would channel hop, but I'd rather just focus on the Bulls game because it was quite interesting. I figured the Bulls were gonna fight back. Interesting where these Ospreys players are gonna end up soon enough. Any other South African players? Not that I can see. They do have a former Cheetahs player outside center. His name escapes me. at this moment. But yeah, Bato Klakani played the whole game. Frankie Horn, Cornon's older brother, got two tries. Bronson Mills, again, excellent performance from inside center. Angelo Davids, former Stormer, he played well. Cornon got one try. The Lions must be stoked that he's recently signed an extension on his contract. The Lions going with the 6-2 split with only two backs on the bench with the outside center Eric Cronje and superstar Ashim Pete coming on the 71st minute. Jean, were you able to, considering this game was simultaneous to your Bulls game, were you able to catch the game afterwards on SuperSport, on the SuperSport app, or just the highlights?
I caught some of the moments. I watched the highlights the next day. I think it was a massive statement from the Ospreys, and I think all the Welsh teams did well, considering the turmoil that's currently engulfing the Welsh Rugby Union. And I'm glad they came out and they made a statement, especially on the field and performance-wise. So yeah, I don't know. It was a difficult game for me to quantify because I think there was a lot of emotion attached to it, from the Welsh perspective, whereas from the Lions, it was for us South Africans, and maybe it was just another match. One thing that definitely stood out to me was the Ospreys seemed to try to offload too much, and that almost played into the Lions' hands. The Lions have got a very loose-ish defense, and they don't really settle your around phase 3, phase 4 on attack. So the Lions almost encourage you to try and offload so that they can get the ball in the air and counter attack when you are absolutely uncoordinated to defend. But in this case, I don't think it saved the Lions. But yeah, I didn't catch the full match. Just got parts of it the next day.
And now we go on through to our North London correspondent, Sibusiso. Sibusiso, your thoughts on the Lions getting a draw out in Wales? Sibusiso there? His mic is still muted. Okay, Bryce, we'll go to you. Did you catch any of the highlights of this game? Or maybe
not. I think I just caught a bit of the highlights on SuperSport, but otherwise, not much. Although, as far as I could see, it was Ospreys attacking, Lions defending, and then capitalizing on mistakes. So I can't really comment that much on this game.
Yeah, we'll come back to you for your thoughts on the Lions season as a whole, because all the South African teams are now at the halfway point. I see Sibusiso is unmuted. Go ahead, Sibusiso.
Hi, you guys. Regarding the Lions, I think we started very slowly, and we actually started well because we got the first try from Horn on the wing, and I think we just faded after that, and other than that, I think we came back very strong because we conceded, I think, 19 points after we scored the first try, and then we scored the second try right at the death of the first half, and then we struggled, and then I think that we had the same problem, your disciplinary issues, of which then we actually did well in trying to come back in the game, but I think it was more. For me personally, it was more of losing from a winning position because we were 24 points before they did, so they recovered. But because and Chris Smith left about two conversions on the he missed two.
I think we've lost Sibusiso. We'll get back to him in a moment. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, click the notification bell.
He couldn't score.
Oh, I think his internet. Sibusiso, yeah, your internet's a bit spotty, which is understandable. Sibusiso and Jean reside in similar areas in the Gauteng province, and there's a bit of technical issues going on. So I'd like to actually thank both of them for still making the time to be on the podcast. Go ahead, Sibusiso.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm saying Chris Smith actually left 4 points on the field because he missed like two conversions, if I'm not mistaken. And and he tried to make amends in the dying minutes of the game, where he actually he got the gap, and he hit the gap and actually grabbed the ball for Angela Davids, who actually couldn't jot down, which was understandable because of the weather. It was raining. And yeah, I think we played well. I mean, last year I think we lost against the Ospreys, and going to their territory and coming back with a draw. It was a draw we could have won, but it's an acceptable result. I think it's like what, 2 points. We scored 4 tries, so yeah, that's what,
Yeah.
3 points. So
It's your
not
first
not not
result
not not a bad.
it's your first result in Europe since 2024. So look, baby steps.
Exactly. So
And then that sort of concludes our review of the three games involving South African teams. But now we move on to the preview stage, which I'm very excited for. It's the podcast derby. It's Tim Nkosi, who's not here this evening. Unfortunately, he had to focus on work-related stuff. Other line supporter Tim Nkosi and Sibusiso hosting Jean at Ellis Park. Sibusiso, your thoughts on the big YXK derby? It kicks off at 2:30 on Saturday.
yes. For me, I know these guys want revenge. After what we did at Loftus a few weeks back. So it's a derby. No one needs motivation for it. I think the players know what's at stake. So and it's at the Lions Den. So I think I might actually go to the stadium this weekend. I just need to sort out my itinerary over the weekend. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And we're playing the team with the second largest number of Springboks in the country. So, and we only have what, three? So we'll see. But I'm hopeful the boys are actually going to show up, because when it comes to, it's like Chiefs and Pirates, your Madrid versus Barcelona type of derby. So so when we play these guys, I know it's just that I'm starting to piss off people here. I live in Blue Bulls country, even though
Mm.
I'm a Lions fan. So I'm gonna be starting to wear my Lions shirts from Wednesday, just to piss off co-workers and stuff. So yeah, yeah, we'll see
Right.
how it turns out. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we love the banter. Jean, your early thoughts, because we're recording this on Monday, so we don't have the team sheets, but just your early thoughts on the game this Saturday.
My earliest thought is I'm going to start driving around with a big fat narky, and if I see a guy in a lion shirt anywhere in Centurion, I'll chuck a narky at him. Uh, but yeah, look, it's obviously the Bulls. I believe the previous game was at Loftus, and um, we lost there. I think the Bulls have to back themselves here and get a win at home. Not really at home, but close enough. Like get a win on SA soil and win one of the derbies, just to sort of point out we can win in Europe, we can win in the URC, we can win at home, and then because going and I know I emphasized it a lot, but going into that break off the back of 3 wins is just going to be good for the team and good for the cohesion. Same as it would be for the Lions. I mean, nobody wants to go into the break off of a loss, and whether you win or lose, you're going to have a lot of work to do. But I think for the Bulls right now, it's about saying, can we back this up with another performance? And we can, instead of saying let's be consistent from minute 1, I would say let's try and be consistent from minute 20. Right? You're still playing a relatively new game plan. Things are not settled down by a long shot. Let's breathe. Let's be calm. Let's take it methodical. Let's just say from minute 20 we have to be 100% on it and in our game plan. And I think you actually mentioned it earlier. No, Bryce actually mentioned it. I think the Bulls actually just need to play half a click slower on attack, and they're gonna gain much more meters. What really cost them the past weekend was they had a lot of strike runners and those strike runners would get isolated and turned over. And the Lions have got a couple of good, really, really good turnover specialists. So for me, I would say, listen, this is not the game to do strike runs unless you're 100% sure it's on. If you're not 100% sure it's on, rather carry with support into contact, play another phase, see if the defense opens up. Guys like Batu Klekani are just waiting for you to isolate yourself, bounce over the ball, and get a free penalty. So yeah. But yeah, I need to go buy some narkies tomorrow for random Lion supporters over here.
Speaking of Batu Klekani, Sibusiso, we haven't heard from you in a while. You've obviously taken some time off from the podcast to focus on football stuff and things like that. Sibusiso is also on my friend's uh, Arsenal podcast. I believe it's called Always Finish Second. So Sibusiso, your thoughts on your thoughts on Batu Klekani's performance to the Lions since he arrived?
Actually, yeah, though. Anyway, the podcast is called GunaCast. So yeah,
Oh
there's
yeah.
like
Okay,
they're
it's
supposed to be
confused.
recording tonight. Anyway, yeah, I was actually impressed with him actually coming in, and you remember when I spoke about the warm-ups, how intense they are. He actually benefited from a warm-up because Omar actually got injured during the warm-up and he got to start. And not only did he start, he actually put up a man of the match performance, of which was actually excellent. So I'm actually happy for him, and I like how they also introduced Babalo as well, who also benefited from someone getting injured during the warm-up. So yeah, Babalo Mahashi. So
Oh
he
yeah.
also benefited from that. So yeah, so I like how they introducing these guys and how they actually, because these guys have been bubbling under for a while, and for them to raise their hands in the big leagues. So I'm quite impressed.
The thing is, he signed for the Lions, and in the first game he was available. He wasn't in the squad, and then since then he was supposed to be on the bench, as you said, and then he got drafted into the starting lineup. And since then, he just 3 games in a row, played the full game.
Yes, yes,
It's fantastic, and I think the Lions have that balance in the loose forwards of Renzo Duplessis playing more of an open side, more of a jackling threat, and then um,
yes.
uh, um,
It's
Glakani
Jared
sort
Kane.
of, yeah, really sort of putting the pain on people and stuff like that. And then we got Horn sort of more eight-man linking type thing. So we've seen different approaches in terms of a loose forward balance and stuff.
Yeah.
Bryce, as a neutral, just early thoughts on the game. Yeah.
I think this could go either way. I think if you had to tell me, if you had to ask me this a month ago, when the Bulls were taking almost 70 against Bristol, I would say it's Lions firm favorites here. But now I think I think this is genuinely fit, because I think the Bulls are on even though I don't think they're winning comfortably. I think they look more likely to win now at home than they did a month ago. I don't know what changed. I don't know if it's that win in Poe that changed everything, but I think I honestly can't tell you who's the favorites here.
Yeah, I think much like the Stormers Sharks game last week, it was difficult for me
Yeah.
to pick a winner. The Stormers were favorites, but
Mm.
like what's actually going to transpire, and that's what
Yeah.
makes these conference derbies so interesting. But at the same time, we pummel the shit out of each other in these
Mm.
South African games. So sometimes you play these games and then you're maybe not as physical, or you have to rotate heavily if you've got an away game in London at the Stoop playing against Harlequins. You have to, because of how much sort of damage you took in the thing. Because I mean, like Sibusiso said a few weeks ago, the Stormers Bulls game was the physicality of
Yeah.
a test match. So Bryce will stay with you.
Yeah.
Sharks, Stormers, immediate rematch, like as if it was a test
Mm.
series. Early thoughts, the game kicks off. So this Saturday, we're all going to have to make very clear arrangements with our significant others, and I'm going to have to tell my girlfriend we can spend time on Sunday because Saturday it's a fantastic game at 2:30, Lions Bulls at Ellis Park, and then immediately afterwards, it's Sharks Stormers. Hopefully a nice full stadium in Durban. Bryce, early thoughts?
Yeah. I do wonder if the two teams will go with the exact same lineup. Okay, obviously, I think there's a couple of injuries, but otherwise, I wonder if they'll go with the same because I don't think the Stormers in the last 5 games have looked that good, actually, even with their Springboks. So I don't know if it would be better just to leave the Springboks out, even though it is a big match.
I mean, immediately after this, there's going to be a 20-day break. So I think that's only for the Sharks and the Lions and stuff.
No, I think
because we're going into the Six Nations thing, and then there's only one full game week in the Six Nations period. But I know the Sharks play on the 21st of February. I don't know, and I believe we play the Lions, and I'll double check the result. I mean the fixtures now. Jean, from a neutral perspective, early thoughts on the game?
Last week I said Stormers will take the first one, Sharks the second, and I think I might have to flip that, but I've got this weird feeling in the back of my head. It could be my shoulder pain, could be something. But I wouldn't be completely surprised if the Sharks sneak it by 1 or 2 points. I just have this weird feeling like the Sharks are, and you know, for the Stormers who started on a high, it makes sense that they have a mid-season dip. Same for the Sharks who started low. Same with the Bulls. They're sort of growing into the season, and we're now sort of meeting at that midway point. So the Stormers could take this game and run it from start to finish. Wouldn't surprise me. But if the Sharks stay in it and they sneak it by a point or two, absolutely not surprised. I will be surprised if there's not more injuries. Because you spoke about the physicality in the Bulls Stormers game. I was watching the Sharks Stormers game and I was waiting for someone to get injured. The way Esterhuizen, Willemse, everyone was pacing at one another, trying to punch through. I was sitting there thinking, any moment now, there's going to be a scream of agony, and a guy is going to go down, and we're going to see broken leg, broken knee, broken ankle. Luckily, that didn't happen, and I don't hope for anyone to be injured. Please, no one get injured. But if the physicality is the same as next weekend, it's a good thing we're going into a big break because those bodies are going to be hurting.
Yeah, the players are going to get a little bit of time off, and then they'll come back for the games that are coming through. The Sharks and the Lions will be playing, as I said, on the 21st. That'll be at Ellis Park again. So the Lions will be hosting 2 home games on the bounce. Bit of a break between them, though. So that'll be 21st of. That'll be the 21st of February. And then the Bulls, on the other hand, the Bulls and the Stormers, they get a little bit more of a break because they play this weekend, but then they play on the 28th of February. So that's almost a month after. So the Bulls actually play the Sharks on the 28th of February, having just been on like a little mini preseason type thing, and whereas the Sharks would have played a game earlier, a week earlier. So we'll see which team sort of benefits from it. To the Bulls benefit because they had more time off, more time to rest, more time to plan for the Sharks, or do the Sharks benefit because they actually had a game beforehand? So maybe the Bulls, I mean, rugby teams do this all the time. They have sort of friendly games against, I wouldn't say lesser unions, but I'd say non-URC franchise unions, like the Southwestern District Eagles, like Boland, and so on and so forth. Gentlemen, so those are the 2 games we are previewing. However, there was some news within the South African rugby landscape. The 4th game in the Greatest Rivalry Tour, the venue for it has been announced. So I anticipated it might be sort of Twickenham, might be Japan, that type of thing, but they've gone somewhat controversially, even though the World Cup will be in America not too long from now in 2031. It's not around the corner though either. It's first going to be in Australia. They're taking it to Baltimore. I like the Ravens. The Ravens NFL team, they've got a cool kit and they've got a nice ethos. But overall, for a lot of different reasons, including socio-politically and what's going on right now in North America, the USA in particular, or shall I say the Gilead, a little bit disappointed. I would have preferred if they wanted the money, they go to Japan and or Twickenham. Also, I'm getting a lot of feedback from my coworkers and neighbors and saying like, well, they could have had another game in South Africa as well because Durban gets one game, but it's not a Springbok game, and Cape Town gets two games, one Springbok and one sort of roll-up game. Sibusiso, your thoughts initially?
Yeah, I wanted to add that actually Joburg is getting 3 games. Two Springbok games and one Lions game. As I stated before, it's actually disappointing. Like you said, it has to do with politics and capitalism and all that stuff. So yeah, I was hoping that Durban or Loftus actually gets this game, and even if it's not Durban, okay, take it to places like you said, Japan or somewhere in Europe, France, because America right now, I don't think it's a safe place to be in all of that stuff. But yeah, I just don't want to be political and all that stuff. But yeah, I was disappointed with the decision to take the game to America.
Yeah, look, I understand they want to add revenue, but they could have been, I don't know whose idea that was. So the first game will be at DHL, shouldn't say DHL, Cape Town Stadium, Stormers versus All Blacks, and then Ellis Park, Lions, All Black. And then, so if you go Ellis Park, FNB Stadium, Loftus, Ellis Park. So like the Gauteng province gets 4 games, which is awesome. Durban only gets the Sharks game against only gets 1. Cape Town Stadium gets 2, but only one's a Springbok, and then one is the Stormers versus the All Blacks. Yeah, so they could have had another game here, another game in Durban, another game somewhere else. Jean, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, from my side, I don't know. I think America is a very controversial place right now. I think the core thing for me, what it boils down to, is the Springboks and the All Blacks have a long and distinguished history of being teams that stood for rugby in places where the world was against it. The Springboks went to New Zealand for a tour during apartheid, and the New Zealand people didn't want to tolerate it. And when we broke out of apartheid and we had a democratic country, we won the Rugby World Cup. And rugby to us has been, it's more than a sport to this country. People will call us rugby crazy, rugby mal, rugby obsessed, whatever you want to call it. But to us, rugby is part of that new leaf that we turned over. And we've had our ups and we've had our downs. I just feel that taking the greatest rivalry there's questions being answered, the validity and stuff of human rights. It doesn't sit well with me. That said, I do understand you want to take one of the biggest games in rugby to America. You want to show them how good rugby can be, how physical it can be, how glorious it can be prior to the Rugby World Cup. I do understand. It's just at this point, I don't think I can reconcile those two matters with one another.
Yeah, it's a tough thing because we love the Springboks, but this decision sort of goes against certain ethos that we were trying to establish, continue to establish. Bryce, your thoughts on the tour itself and the venue for the last game?
Yeah, I like the tour, but the American venue doesn't really make sense because if I'm reading it correctly, it's going to happen right after the FNB match. So how does that work? Do they just all fly on the Sunday and then not? I mean, it's a weird. Plus the time zones. So I don't quite understand the thinking there. Because like what if like New Zealand loses 3-0 at home? Do they send their B team there and then it's a fast match anyway? So I mean, I don't know.
Look, it's going to be an exciting event. This greatest rivalry tour, and we were all like really excited for it, and we're still really excited for it. This sort of sours it somewhat, and also the logistics of them, as you mentioned, and a few people have mentioned as well, of them flying over. What does that? We keep talking about sort of wanting to player welfare and stuff like that. And look, yeah, like you want to make revenue, but at what cost? So we'll keep a close eye on this. We're going to do a greatest rivalry tour sort of warm up beginning of when the Springbok season starts to just get going, as the URC and the Champions Cup concludes and the Springboks going to camp. So yeah, keep an eye on this podcast, keep an eye on Global Gainlines, and we'll have some more content as it relates to that. Gentlemen, it was great having all of you. Again, big thank you to Sibusiso and Jean for joining despite having technical issues. We dearly appreciate it. Bryce, it was great having you on. Is this your first podcast ever, Bryce?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a natural. Okay. So from myself, Sibusiso, Jean, and Bryce, until next week, as we say every week, in Rassi, we trust.